in. Tanya Sangpun from Thamkruphat is a Thai Vietnamese visual poet and essayist. She is the author of Embodiment of Wonder, Rain Publishing 2021. It Wasn't a Dream, Famdi Famidan Publishing and Company 2022, and Care Instructions, Finishing Lines Press in 2024. Her writing appears in Orange County Register, Button Poetry, Zocalo Public Square, Diaphragm, Honey Literary, and the Cincinnati Review, Inlandia, and Dia Critics, and elsewhere. You can find her on Twitter and on Instagram at Madam Rightly So. All right, let's jump right in, Tanya, whenever you're ready.
All right, great. All right, so this first poem is called Origin Story, and this was published in Broken Lens Journal. I was born an odd child to a starlit mother and a black hole father. My mother nursed me with ancestral lullabies while fending off her descent into my father's void. My father overfed me with cheap trinkets of hopes and jingling expectations that made me sickly. People told me that as a child I perpetually seemed like I was going to explode into fleshy tears and glittering chunks. They swore they witnessed a strange battle inside of me when they saw my eyes. They weren't sure if I'd live to see another day. They say my hue shifted from jasmine white to lotus pink to hibiscus red. Red, a color that my mother mistook as a sign of luck. A sign, a sign, a sign. My mother told me my luck would change for me. My mother meteorically turned to haze. My father collapsed on himself. I didn't see signs. I saw signals to return to the beginning, to the ancestral songs and stories, to the dense stardust universe in my head. There I wander, flounder, and chant. Let me find my way to honor all parts of who I am. Let me find my way to honor all parts of who I am. Thank you. This next poem is called Dreaming in America and it was published in South Dakota Review. When I was small, I asked what it meant to dream, and my mother, worry knitting her brows, said we should be cautious of what we breathe into existence, especially in unfamiliar lands, that we should not voluntarily choose to labor and wrangle questions that make us feel like it's a one-sided relationship in which we are left abandoned by runaway billowing answers with no breath wasted. She reminded me that we cannot afford to live like others who relish in playing pretend with their rich imaginings that are overfed and spoiled by their thinly stretched time and foolishness. She tries to win me over with saccharine endearments I've only witnessed in the cinematic space of my imagination. Endearments in which each vowel is stretched long enough to make me believe my mother enough, but also each vowel stretched playfully enough to convince me she was motherly pandering. Being young, my untamed tongue didn't know its place and barraged my unexpected mother with questions like, what if we are allowed to dream without cost? What if not dreaming prevents us from being rewarded with those lofty answers? What if there was no one, not even God or country, to stop us from wanting more for ourselves? Thank you. This next one is called I Am Home, and this was published in West Trestle Review. I am home, which is to say that my body is not a what, which means it is not sacred ground, which means it is not blessed, which means there's no merit making or merrymaking or miracles or dwelling deities here, but instead it is a serene salah that shelters my secrets and plenty of my past, present, and future selves and shades them from the heat and damage that has been sculpted by years of sadness and sacrifice and self-care out of a heavenly corner in the concrete jungle and where the sabai sabai feeling softly swings under the banyan tree, and when hungry, it bites into a bounty of cut up crisp mangoes coated with love, sugar, salt, and chili, leaving it satiated with a sap taste that lingers on the tongue, and lips like lovers who sensually slink about each other like snakes while the cicadas sing a serenade at peak heat. and the scent of ecstasy is inhaled like yadom and exhaled as a meditative ums and ahs, while the breeze traces its fingers along everything and everyone and everywhere in wonderment, while shyly eyeing the sky that blushes all over and the sun that sinks into the chest of the day. Thank you. This next one is called The Obsolescence. There were others who speculated that I would soon be obsolete. They said I was showing early signs of glitching. They asked if I got all my mandatory updates. They advised that regular maintenance is crucial for longevity. They cautioned that I could easily be replaced. They suggested I talk to a professional about improving my performance. Though they read that enhancements can only help so much. They pondered out loud about whether they'd pay for enhancements, or they said letting the natural life cycle run its course is a choice too. They'd seen plenty of powerful stories about those living well past their prime. I said thank you because manners are never outdated. I added that I appreciated the recommendations. I am not malfunctioning. No malware has infected me. I am feeling fantastically fine. I'm feeling fine. I am feeling, I am, I. Thank you. This next one is called A Supersonic Telephonic Conversation with Yourself. You, a mote, were abruptly flung into this world, immediately learning to contend with unrelenting chaos while haphazardly maintaining and patching your fragile walls to protect yourself alone. You, a mote that you were a blunder sown into the world. Immediately, you yearned to spin, unrelenting chaos to maintain your pack, your fractured walls to protect yourself. Atone. You denote that you were thundering in this world. Immediately you turn to sin relentlessly. Chaos fractures the walls to protect against yourself. You didn't know what you were thinking. In this world, drearily, you sink inevitably into chaos. Rapture walls, protect yourself. You did it. No, you weren't sinking. This world fears your true identity. Chaos, that rascal, furls around itself at your walls, respectfully, of course. And this was published in Whiskey Journal. This next one is called Sonnet for Creating a Star-Studded Personal Universe. Carefully snip through the dash blips in your life to swiftly obliterate them, to gingerly tear yourself, a star, from the two-dimensional template and flutter away, guided by your luminous eyes, to sift and collect specks and fibers of simpler times of yore, to manifest and build an unparalleled personal universe that sails in peace by moonlight and welcomes anyone who desires to be part of the serenity. And that was published in Full House Literary. This next one is called a triple abecedarian of a fervent dream inside a nightmare, inside backwards nonsensical reality. Um, Art and bullshit can destroy, evict ferociously, goodness, humanity, interlopers jape. Karma lurks, muses, no offers. Please quell rabble rousers. Sadly, they're united, vexed. We exit, yearning, zen. A bleeding cut doubles eerily, foams, gnashes. Hell is jowly, King Kong-like. Merde. No out? Panic? Quit? Run? Stop trying? Understand, vileness will exhaust you zealously. Zilch, you wail, exclaim vehemently. Untangling tongues, spit, rot, quasars, petunias offered no meaning. Listen, knuckleheads, just immerse holistically. Gallivant feverishly every day, commands beloved ancestors. And that was published in Midway Journal. This next one is called Run. Run. Directions. Fill in the missing letters. Each line suggests a word that contains the word run. Since memory, your mechanical self tirelessly bears this to unpredictable heavenly and earthly beings. The word brunt. Your mother's heart bellows this sound every time you throw another monstrous sadness upon her. Drunk. You're intoxicated with an undeniable emotion to be in disrepair. Oh, sorry. The second one's crunch. This one's drunk. You're intoxicated with an undeniable emotion. Oh yeah. Okay, so sorry. Jagged bits are scraped together from your evaporative self to utter this plea for help. Grunt. Uh, I haphazardly chop off dead and living parts of me, vainly hoping that I'm reshaped into a better version of myself. Pruned. Watch me wobble from ducking hits while hopping on one leg and chanting affirmations to keep me on the path. Punch drunk. My slippery body waterfalls into chasms where I feel welcome to hide. Runny. My crepe-like soul folds into an out-of-tune accordion when doused with salty pressure and rich expectations. Scrunched. I roll and spin noisily, slowly, and clumsily through unfamiliar spaces I fear. Trundle. I get twisted, squeezed, and compressed in order to extract the sadness. Wrung. And that was published in Milk Press. This next poem is called A Haiku Diary of a Karmic Interstellar Traveler. 1. I had been reborn more times than the universe likes, yet here I am. 2. In each life, I hound its stars for fruitless discourse, knowing I will starve. 3. The universe sneers while nipping at my soul before I can order. 4. With babe's eyes, I shriek in joy, grief. At least there's one who knows me so well. 5. Specters of past lounge in morn's yawn and moonlight sleep, whispering secrets. 6. I remind myself my blood flows eternally with ancestral songs. 7. The lotus blossoms each dawn with the same petals, renewed, majestic. And that one was also published in Milk Press. This next one is called The Fortune Teller Tuts and Declares. The fortune teller tuts and declares, I am astronomically unlucky. So I stare at the fortune teller and exclaim, I don't believe that. I'm a happy person. I'm a loved person. I'm a successful person. I'm a blessed person because life insistently reminds me that my fortune can't be changed. And I refuse to believe that I have control of my life because I'm assured in endless ways that I'm a doomed person. And no one can convince me that I'm a goddess because no matter what, I'm not deemed worthy enough. And I don't believe that I deserve the best because when I realistically examine my life, I think, what if the fortune teller is wrong? Because when I realistically examine my life, I think I deserve the best. And I don't believe that I'm not deemed worthy enough because no matter what, I'm a goddess. And no one can convince me that I'm a doomed person because I'm assured in endless ways that I have control of my life. And I refuse to believe that my fortune can't be changed because life insistently reminds me that I'm a blessed person. I'm a successful person. I'm a loved person. I'm a happy person. So I stare at the fortune teller and exclaim, I don't believe. I'm astronomically unlucky. Um, this next one is called Some Days. Some days I wake to scoop onto my dream face the sun's mountainous warmth. Sighs somersault past my lips, my eyes become a diamond ocean. Music shimmies through my pores. I'm queen of the night, my chest blooms. Butterflies instigate so much chaotic good. Worries don't grow abundantly. There are no easy questions. I'm reckless. The day billows with potential. What a life! Some days, with my marble hands, the crisp air pressed onto my dewy, fiery body, cracking me open into earthy chunks, and I sing off key and vowels. I wave my hands, asking for mercy, and my skin pulsates with no rhythm. My lungs become heavy, and my gut that it's unbearable. At times, the night nurtures sickly shadows. Answers are tinged with complex flavors of my desires. I run with them. That is never ending. What a life. Some days I wake to scoop with my marble hands the crisp air onto my dream face, pressed onto my dewy, fiery body, the sun's mountainous warmth cracking me open into earthy chunks, sighs somersault past my lips, and I sing off key and vowels. My eyes become a diamond ocean. I wave my hands asking for mercy. Music shimmies through my pores. My skin pulsates with no rhythm. I'm queen of the night. My chest balloons. My lungs become heavy. Butterflies instigate so much chaotic good in my gut that it's unbearable at times. Worries don't grow abundantly. Answers are tinged with complex flavors. There are no easy questions. With my desires, I run with them. I'm reckless. Um, the day billows with potential. That is never ending. What a life. What a life. I wouldn't change anything about those days. Thank you. And that's the end of my reading.
That was beautiful. That was absolutely incredible. You are a great, great reader. And
Thank
the way
you.
that you, I also love the cosmic imagery as well. But the way you go in and then out, and then you're kind of also doing narrative work and it's unfolding all at once, it's incredible.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Tanya. All right, and also make sure to hold your questions until the end. Next, we have Quinn Franzen. Quinn is a Brooklyn-based poet, actor, and educator. His poems published are forthcoming in Poetry, P Pleiades, the Adroit Journal, Slip Lip, Diode, Barrelhouse, and elsewhere. A poetry editor at the Bear Review, he received his MFA from Bennington Writing Seminars. He has also received support from the McCormack Writing Center, the Saltonstall Foundation, and community of writers. Quinn was born and raised in Hawaii. Whenever you're ready, Quinn.
Thanks so much, Tandiwe, and thanks to you and Kyla Yen for organizing this. This is so exciting, and I just love the writers you guys have on, so it's thrilling to be one of them. And thanks for supporting us. Oh my God. So, Tanya, that was incredible. I'm like, so the like spirals, there's so much going
Thank
on in my
you.
head with these poems, and I've been lucky enough to like see them on the page a little bit. I have questions.
Thank you.
I'm like very excited to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I guess I'll just kind of dive right in. I'll start with a couple poems and then maybe I'll talk a little bit about my work. So I was gonna start with, well, I had a poem come out in Had today, which was kind of surprising to me. So I'm just like feeling it and I'm gonna read it. So I'll read that right now. This poem is called Sonnet to My Son, who I think is on screen right now.
Just sitting here. Just sitting there.
Hi, buddy. Um, we might need to mute, baby.
I'm sorry, I thought we were
It's
muted. I'm so
okay.
sorry.
It was perfect timing, honestly. It was exquisite. Okay, this is to you, Leon. Sonnet to my son. Two trash trucks collide, and the hairiest man I have ever seen is arguing with the second hairiest man I have ever seen. They are both beautiful as the sun curls to sleep in their curling forearms. The intersection smells like bad gin. You point at a car and say, tar. What I need to survive, I gin up from nothing. You point at a cat that isn't there. What I thought I needed to survive, I didn't. Even the bricks reflect a little light. Okay, next poem is called Guava Jelly. It just came out last month in Split Lip magazine. Guava Jelly. Everyone has a high tolerance for pain until pain comes along. Then you're flopped in the pasta aisle. Then you're shouting about God's threshing floor. You're just a little bird. By you, I mean me. A great life would be good, wouldn't it? Like an old, old painting. The compass unglued, my prayers are all for pleasure. I would like to be a man drinking beer. This seems achievable. This morning, I ate one spoonful of lilikoi butter and one spoonful of guava jelly. Did you also briefly think you could live on air? As a child, I wished to be struck. Asked once. I wished a parent could know me well enough to hate me. When the baby grows up, I want to be smoke. Am I doing this right? I mean, I want to be smote. The landscape burns and the livestock continue churning into white caps. But this morning, I ate one spoonful of lilikoi butter and one spoonful of guava jelly. That was in split lip. Okay, I'm gonna read one more and then I'll like say some things, I guess. I'm starting a timer so I don't completely lose track of what is going on here because that happens. Okay, this poem is called The Rain. And it's one of those poems where the title continues into the first line. I'm sure there's a fancy word for that, and I don't know what it is. The rain hit, of course. The pebbled rain all across the roof, and the rain was bills, and it was tires and screws. It was crusts of bread and nail clippings and nail clippers. It was every sheet of paper you'd ever filed, and it was the filing cabinet leaning, younger brother-like, by the fridge. The rain fell, and it was rain, and it was raining. And the white chickens gave zero shits about the rain, kept scratching and pecking, unaware of tires or tire irons, thinking only of corn. The corn was corn, even in the rain. This is how it goes. The rain rains, and you forget your pills and glasses and socks. You forget to eat. You forget your jacket. The screen door slams, and you want to go out in the rain, hissing into the earth. And they become yours. The coins and Brillo pads and bad neighbors, the pins and coffee grounds, the paint and paint chips and bottle tops and dried wasps, the old elm with its widow-making branch, the closed and unclosed envelopes. You hoped to be a chicken, but you became a talking urn. You hoped to be a canopy of birds, but instead you praise the rain, chattering as it moves up and down the pebble in your throat. Thank you. So yeah, so I started writing more serious. I mean, I've been reading poems and writing for a long time, but I started taking it more seriously probably like I mean, in earnest, maybe like 5 years ago, as my, I don't know, I was no, felt like I was no longer a child in the world in a variety of ways, and a big part of that was deciding whether or not to have a child. And spoiler alert, he's on camera now. But you know, I think I felt that poetry could be a place to bring questions, and as someone who is about frankly as like as spiritually well equipped as a kitchen sponge, I feel like you know I do need art and language to be a place for capacious questions and sort of spiritual questions, and you know yeah, so anyway, so I want to approach a lot of that. You'll notice a lot of my poems, I think, don't necessarily center fatherhood, but they deal with fatherhood. And I think as someone who knew he would probably be a dad one day, but also was never like I've never sort of romanticized that image for myself, or and I think especially men are not really conditioned in our society, in most societies, to really think about the realities of caregiving and what it means to be a father. I've sort of had to do a lot of my own image making and myth making as a way of digesting this experience and remaining sane and a hopefully somewhat good person. Anyway, that's who knows if poetry can actually do any of those things, but that's what I'm miswielding it for. So I'm going to read some dad poems. This first one is called, I'm going to try to read off paper now. I printed some stuff, but I'm extremely disorganized. This first poem is called Amniocentesis. This is a porous time, the midwife says in a soothing voice. What? Her tote stretches thin around what it holds. In a lab in Indianapolis, my wife's blood spins apart, plasma rises. If the Earth's rotation slowed even slightly, we would be thrown from its surface. This happens daily. Unused, the smartphone still depletes, still heats my right thigh. My 1993 Nissan Quest rusts to nothing. Tall grass threads its engine in Dad's side yard. I'm told great continental plates roll under us. The West flees the East, and the Rockies wear away like tire tread. For the low price of 7 years, our bodies become new, feebler bodies. From under a cushion in the still living room, my wife's phone dings. Outside, a Cadillac bumps music so loud it clutches my breath. It builds until the skillet rattles on the stove, until the sound cracks and skips against its own blaring. It is unclear if this is an issue with a stereo or a feature of the song. This next poem is called Thalassophobia. The pink swim trunks bought from the downtown Skowhegan consignment, they're also blue. What is this hair? This hair in barely electric cowlicks. The baby's sleeping grimace and the pricey bouncer. Renaissance hands. I'm afraid of the water. What's under the water? I feel dustless. The gladiolus, too heavy on their stems, yellow in a too short vase. The joke my dad made. What did the loan shark flowers say? It wasn't a good joke. Each night I see myself swimming. The vase in the morning, also blue. My son wears what we call his muscle beach look, a striped onesie tank. He looks like he can flex fat. I think that's a joke from Garfield. The paddle steamer lurking on the lake bed, 1908. Shh, the baby. I imagine the rotted wheel, a camisole's pale flesh in silt, a beer can's sudden brightness swimming. I don't know what a camisole is. Startled, I slid through the water's grid. My dad didn't make that joke. I did. And Thalassophobia was first published in Pleiades. Okay, this is a newish poem. It's coming out in the offing sometime later this year. I don't really know when, but they've promised they're going to do that, so I don't know. It's called For My Father. You were born in the cloven lobes of your dad's brain, all folds and blind valleys, dog legs, horns, and hooves. It's good we left the labyrinth. Your father's legacy is a campfire that cooks but spins no light. You fed me in the dark. Herculean, you never did to me what your daddy did to you. When he died, you closed a coin into his jaw. You could not speak, but I heard you cry out and touched your cheek with my outside paw. Um, that was For My Father. This poem is differently about my father, and I read the nice one first. This isn't a mean poem, but his penis appears in it, so I'm sorry, Dad, if you're here. Um, Midnight Snack as an A24 body horror film. As a poem in sections. 1. While the half and half slept in its squat carton, I couldn't, so crept to the kitchen, where my father reared backlit naked before the open fridge, his frame fraying in the papaya seed dark, a narrow cage of flesh barely hung in the blue light orange juice gallon upside down, the gullet gasping it in, spilling over his shoulder, the jug glugging air, the man choked for water in animal stifled sounds. I knew if I kept watching, the brown mole halfway up his spine would split open like an eye and stare back. 2. 73 and wrapped in a crepe cocoon on my couch, my father's monoxide snore spilled across the floorboards. Creeping past his sleeping form, what scared me most was the promise his body made, the winter torso I'd inherit, the skin that caught and tore like tissue. I pulled apart the paper carton's mouth, poured the cream past my teeth, a tang. Holding close to my eye the sell-by date, I swear I heard the aged pelvis coo. I heard the wizened penis whine. 3. Milk in, milk out. My son's eye oozes, a colony of teeth roost in his skull. He splurts and growls as milk curdles in the canals of his neck and arms. Love is only his eye's black aperture blooming as he eats, the way the synthetic nipple glues and unglues his gums. I am what hunches over him, fingernails dragging the rug, a nameless aberration that slumps from room to darkened room, that hardly lives, that lives only for his life. Cool. So I also have been playing a lot lately. I think it gets really, as anyone who writes sort of obsessively will tell you, I think it gets kind of hard to like orbit the same subject matter a lot. It's like nice for generating work, but I think you also get very, very tired of it. And it starts to feel a little bit like diary entry work. So I've been playing a lot lately with more sort of like musically led work. And a lot of it still orbits some of the same questions. I think I have a lot of questions about masculinity, um, and you know, how alone one can actually be, how alone one is, and how useful that myth is. Um, but anyway, I'm going to read some stuff that's a little bit newer and a little less focused on, the birth and early life of my son. This poem is called People Also Ask. It's technically a collaboration with the People Also Ask feature on Google, where it just like suggests a million other things that people have searched that are usually not very helpful to you. Okay, here goes. People also ask, are peanuts good for you? Is it good to eat peanuts every day? What is the downside of too much peanuts? Where do peanuts come from? Can I eat 50 peanuts? Which nuts are poisonous to dogs? Do peanuts increase anxiety? Can dogs eat popcorn? Why am I craving peanuts? Are peanuts good for hair? Do peanuts help sexually? What is the right time to eat peanuts? Does drinking water help sexually? What foods to help my Virginia? Do peanuts cause hair loss? What percent of America is allergic to peanuts? What are the warning signs of diverticulitis? What blessing is on peanuts? Is banana a nut? Is a peanut good luck? Which fruit is best for hair? Why are peanuts so dangerously addictive? What is the saying about peanuts? Are peanuts religious? Do peanuts make me harder? Do peanuts stop hunger? What is the theology of Charles Schulz? Why peanuts deadly? What is peanut energy? What means peanut in dreams? Thank you for rolling with that one. Okay, I'm just going to read a few more. These are all very new. This poem is, I did a little bit of like an Oulipo experiment here, which is just, I'm only using the vowel E um, in this poem. So there's all the consonants are available, but only the vowel E, which leads to some kind of interesting sound stuff, which is mostly unintentional, but kind of a cool side effect. Anyway, this poem is called Sheep Remember. September trended 10 degrees redder. December 17. We wept the swelter. Then hell seethed. We went there. Peerless tremblers, we kept sheep, erected fences, tended beats. Everywhere temples fell, fever lended the end credence. Wherever we extended, eels teemed. Remember elms? Beetles deleted them. Elk reeled, enfeebled, bred fewer elk. Restless, we slept, felt helpless, slept even less. We weren't blessed. We were merely the segment left. We wept, swept the welter, then descended. Hell felt deserved. I find that I like summer less and less. I don't know how much of that is climate change and how much of that is just me not liking sweating as much as I used to. That I like to like, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Moving on. This is a kind of a broken pantoum, which is a form where every line repeats twice and they kind of interlock like a zipper going down the page. It makes more sense if you hear it or see it. This poem is called Natural History with Fences. The mountain doesn't require us, not in any satisfying, validating way. Behind the razor wire, a man gives a thumbs up to a waterfall, but not in a satisfying, validating way. A coyote limps from a ditch, and a man gives a thumbs up from a bike headed to 7-Eleven. The coyote limps back into the ditch. Even an injured thing has a sense of play. From a bike headed to 7-Eleven, people ate each other to make it to California. Even an injured thing has a sense of play. At some point, a glacier gouged out this valley and people ate each other. California makes it easy to love Ansel Adams and brutalist buildings. At some point, a glacier gouged out this valley and made way for 7-Elevens and resorts and men who love Ansel Adams and brutalist buildings. There's plenty of room for everyone now that we've made way for 7-Elevens and resorts and men the mountain doesn't require. There's plenty of room for everyone behind the razor wire. Okay, I'm just gonna read like two more. And then we'll call it. No, I should just read one more poem and stop, right? Time-wise. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay. Thanks. Sorry, I lost my page here. All right, this is a new one. It's called On Oxidation. Imagine gold magnets holding down the Mediterranean, pinning the blue bits, the borders, the inlets to the fridge, the tea-brown corners of printer paper burnt for a school project. Imagine handprints on highlights, shoes toppled by the door, the window cat's routine arf. And see this night laid out like cheesecloth over our life, our street, our subway station, and laid out over the harbor, protecting its wrecks, their bellies slit and spilling fleece, their coins like gold teeth, unglorious in the stone torso landscape. A stubbled keel, brain coral, the face of an eel on a linen sail. Here, the coffee's hot and weak. The party's in disarray, and still we've these few decades to muck around in the silt. Hear that underwater roar? Some channel marker chained to the seabed, the links of its line tolling, think, think. I can't understand the science, but let physics do its dumb show. These waves of morning hair wick away all sense. I don't know why the song weathers the ear that hears it, why it's always salt water that sneers a stain into polished brass. Whatever we are is tethered to these scuttling bodies, this creaking sloop, this unscuppered child. See the sea? This is the way the shore listens to the shore. This is the way a cliff hears the rock doves nesting inside it. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Quinn. Like very creative and imaginative, and it was just incredibly it drew me in. It drew me in definitely, and the way you added humor in and the nicest parts, I really appreciated that. Okay, okay. So to end the show, rather than start, unfortunately, we are pleased to welcome Elias Udaochi. Elias Udaochi, he, them is a queer artist and SRHR advocate for key vulnerable populations in the Edo State, a Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net nominee. They received fellowships from the Unserious Collective in 2023 and a Poets and Pajamas Fellow in 2024 and 2026. Their poems are the inaugural winner of the Agbowo Magazine Editors Poetry Prize and second place in the Death Rouse Ouroboros Penrose Poetry Prize in 2023. They were finalists for both the Alpine Fellowship Poetry Competition and Black Warrior Review Poetry Contest. They have poems published in Agbowo, the World Review, the Main Review, and more. They're Elias Udaochi on social media. Let's begin, Elias, whenever you're ready.
Hey, hi everyone. Good morning over here. Uh, it's it's 42 past 12 here. So it's a privilege to do this again. I know we had some unfortunate technicalities that happened last time, and I'm grateful for the privilege to do this again and do it properly. I want to read some resistance poems and then perhaps a very sensual and love poem. So the resistance poem it's after the Lekki massacre in 2020, where the Nigerian military opened fire, live ammunition on armless protesters protesting for the Nigerian government to disband the SARS police military group that has been terrorizing Nigerian youths. And so this poem is a series of poems. It's titled A Revolt in 4 Acts. So Act 1, Men in Black. So a boy died yesterday and also did the laughs on his mother's lips. Dreams and unfinished stories locked into a tearful monologue. Today I stand motionless before a barricade of black, and the sole aim is to whistle anguish through this body. On these streets, death can be your friend too. In a dream, a projectile visits my flesh at the speed of light, and the one in my body sails into the night. In my country, boys die before their bodies hit the floor. God save this body of spark from extinction. Act 2. For every time we are dusted into wind. What is this upheaval of raised fists, if not a miracle, a brutal awakening? You do not tell the very angry young men chanting Fela to go silently into the night. Past a curfew for 4 p.m., we are exoding through a curtain of rain, waving mangoed branches so we can stamp our resistance in the air. For every silent body who could not appeal to the gods, tollgating this landmine of bituminous grief, we unweave our tongues into a firestorm. The truth is, every intersection here is seconds away from a conflagration of dreams. Vile intents on rampage. On these runways, we stretch our bodies into defiance. For the many times we are dusted into wind by men wielding death like magic wands, we expand our bodies into a war cry. Act 3. Few days after Lekki. My brother returns from the market shaking. Soldiers are ripping daylight out of the sky, he says. How two boys fold into a dream, into a journey of tenderness rippled with rattles misfiring grief like confetti. I want to tell him that death is a gift, but that's a lie. There is no bubble wrap to hide away what strain the eye wears when it drowns in the blood on the street. Instead, I sing him a lullaby as he lies down to dream of boys half-timed. Act 4. Portrait of myself as a raised fist in the middle of a monochrome. Portrait of myself as a raised fist in the middle of a monochrome picture, showing the streets of Benin as a lived memory. I twist the threads of 1,000 lies to hold myself together. In my father's shadow, there is a necropolis of dead black boys and more dead black boys and their bleached bones, dead and black and forgotten like a dream. On this street, there is a stampede and a man underfoot. His mother's lullaby wedged in his chest. What if I had died? And I tell him of a night when I too thought I had died. A walk through town and a man extends grief like a fire hose. I think he meant to spray me open. I bind my fears to my legs, will them to move into a body of chorus changing with the wind. Perhaps in the vision where I am not the next item on a news bulletin. I am giving my voice platitudes of reason to never be calm, to never fear death whistling from the arms of a protector. We will never be ready for the tragedies of heaven. Till then, let us live. So, so that's the end of the revolt in 4 acts. So, this next poem is modeled after Romeo Origun. I think it was in a response to one of his poems. It's titled In a Country Ready to Bleed You Dead. Pray in little spaces wild enough for a dream, and in deep sarcophagi of a body still remnants flush with heaven. God's beard burning with crystals are the colors for which we are named. A name can be a vilification of colors. In this room primed with intent, a ghost restless in bones still wild with warmth gives their body to nude stares. Say we are at war and mean it. Say you know why we burn into the dark of tarred streets, blood surging in this room of rainwater. You see, his lover, 3 letters shy of happy, rocked himself to sleep at the bottom of a lake. Friend, they've given us names we do not own. Pray the holes buzzing in your body are enough to house your lover, enough to castle these sieges. Or what say you? We build armories in the clefts of our mouths. And now this sensual poem. So the thing is, as much as a queer Nigerian, as much as I am trying to resist the tyranny of the Nigerian government, most times the queer lives, the queer experience is excluded out of this resistance. And so, if, for example, during the end SARS, when we were protesting against the end SARS, and then queer people came out to protest against the SSMPA that criminalizes um, queer identities in the country, that was enacted in 2014, which has made the Nigerian public to be boldened enough to kill queer people. Like recently, we had someone who was thrown over a story building, and someone who was bludgeoned in his school hostel just because of their perceived sexual orientation. And so when we want to side by side um, begin to resist intersectionally, we see that the major Nigerian populace resist us. And so while we try to resist the Nigerian government to provide better democracy for us as a country, uh, it's important as a queer artist that I relish the love and the little spaces that my body can afford. And so which brings me to this
Elias, we'll actually
conclusion.
have to just jump in right now. We need to make sure that Tanya and Quinn
You might
have time for their
Hi.
Q&A. Oh, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. We were just looking for you to finish reading the one poem that you were reading at your last reading. But we still need time for Tanya and Quinn to actually do their Q&A. So we actually have to wrap up the reading time. 'Cause
Okay.
we just had time for
Okay.
your one poem that you didn't get to finish last time.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, but thank
that's
you so
fine. That's
much.
fine. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm grateful.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading your poem and for getting to read another one for us. It was really wonderful, and we're glad to have you back to finish your readings. And yeah, it was great to experience your poetry again. But yeah,
Thank
Tandiway,
you.
if you're, are you, is there, I don't know if Tandiway I know was having some technical issues too. Um, Oh, okay. Okay. So I think Tandiway actually is having some technical issues as well. So I'll move us into the Q&A portion for Tanya and Quinn while Tandiway is getting their connection back. But yeah, so we'll move on into the Q&A, and I'd like to open up to the audience. If anyone here has any questions they would like to ask Quinn and Tanya, either of them or both of them. And you can feel free to send your question in the chat, or raise your hand and mute yourself.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Thank you all for reading, all three of you so much. I was curious in reading or in listening to both of you, all three of you guys, but I'm curious if there's any influence is always kind of a question, and um, I know it's a very hard question to answer broadly, because it's kind of like everything you've ever read and anybody you've ever come into contact with. But I'm curious with the poems you read in particular, if you can trace if there are lineages back you can trace to certain yeah, certain poets in particular.
Quinn, you can go first if you want.
You unmuted to call me out. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I really grew up loving like Louise Glick and Carl Phillips in particular. Those were two of my early favorite poets, and I think they have a form of like they're sort of confessional poets, you know. They definitely use the material of their lives and their work a lot, but they also make it harder and stranger, and they, you know, it's very malleable, that kind of clay. Like I feel like they're extremely different poets, obviously. You know, I think Louise Glick is very like statementy and just like rock solid, pretty like seemingly unemotional, at least at face value. And Carl Phillips is much more like, you know, lyrical and kind of but I've always admired people who can get far enough away from their lives to create like a sort of second life on the page. So I think that's something I've always longed to do. But I would love to hear what Elias and Tanya have to say to
What
this
about
question.
playfully, Quinn, though, just to speak to that, like the play and the yeah, the play piece of
Sure.
things, which I associate a little bit
Yeah.
with Carl Phillips and Louise Glick, but um,
Uh,
or yeah, anything on that, like on that
yeah,
vein?
I think I'd say like James Tate and Zachary Schoenberg are pretty playful people I really like. Honestly, Rennie Ament, whose book I shouted out at the beginning, is a really playful poet. I love their work. Um, yeah, and I can't wait to hear the others.
Yeah, so for me personally, I mean, I really love to add in playfulness into my poems, and especially in the last few years, visual poetry has been kind of like my focus and kind of my obsession. But I do love the kind of surrealist type of poems. One person who has been a huge influence since I started, got back into poetry 10 years ago, is Jose Hernandez Diaz. He does a lot of surrealist prose poems. He's been a huge influence in my poetry career so far. But yeah, him and a lot of other contemporary poets as well. Keith Wilson does a lot of visual poetry, a lot of experimentation. I love his work as well. Victoria Chang does a little bit of that as well here and there. But yeah, those are just some of the influences that I can think off the top of my head right now because I'm blanking on other names. But yeah.
Okay, for myself, I've always loved Worcestershire. I think the the calmness or the pastorality of her languages, let's say, but you could see how it's so visceral and it's just opens you up to a whole lot of emotions and feelings, and then you understand where the poet becomes the witness and also the confessor of their own existence. And so I have always sworn by Worcestershire and Romeo Orogun. So what Romeo Orogun did for Nigerian queer poets, he won the Brunel Poetry Prize, and that just exploded the poetry scene for queer poets and artists. And we could actually now move away from anonymous Facebook groups into the mainstream literary scene. And then, yeah, and Carl Phillips has been wonderful. I have always looked towards his work. And yeah, thank you.
Tanya and Elias, do you guys mind just putting in the chat the poets you mentioned? I'm just like really excited to look them up.
Sure, I can do that.
I had a question for Tanya, just because I've gotten to like see some of your work on the page. I'm very curious what your notebook looks like because some of your work is very visual, and like very, like there's some concrete poems and there's some like sort of like formal like shapes that dictate sort of the flow of the poem, which I think we very much heard when we were listening to your reading, which was so exciting. I'm just curious, like, does the shape come first? Does the art, does your notebook look like a sketchbook? I'm just curious, like, what's in
It's
there?
Yeah, it's a total mess. I mean, to be honest, so most of the times when I'm thinking, especially when it comes to experimental, very visual poems that do have shapes and other objects in it, I'm thinking more of like visually like the object and also I mean also in parallel like what am I trying to do with this, visual poetry idea? Lately, in the last, like, I'd say 2 to 3 years, I've been very obsessed, like I said, with visual poetry, but on top of that, I've been really obsessed with, um, the like kind of paper-based games we used to play as kids, like in the 80s and 90s. I don't know what it is, but there's a whole theme of nostalgia a lot in my especially my visual poems. So yeah, it's dictated a lot right now by paper-based games. So, and Keith Wilson does a lot with that, with like nostalgia. So I've been very inspired by his work in that sense lately. But yeah, my notebook is a mess. Like it's just all over the place. If you look at it, it looks like a crazy person is like writing in there. Like doesn't know what she's doing. She's just writing notes here and there. But yeah, and then at some point it all comes together. I do use like Canva to kind of like make it look nicer and start putting things that look a little bit more formal. But yeah, it's a mess.
Awesome. Any other questions for our poets?
Yeah, for the three of you, are there any projects that you guys are excited about or any books? Yeah.
I guess I'll go first since no one's answer. For me, projects. Right now I'm just continuing my I'm trying to get a full length collection together. This one will be my first one, so I'm been working on that for like the past, let's say 2 years or so. So it's been a slow go. And this one is definitely going to be more visual poetry based. So yeah, I'm trying to, and I don't have everything together that much. I know what poems that I want in there. I know it's going to be a lot about nostalgia, a lot about culture, heritage, relationships, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm excited to hopefully eventually finish. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of dodging the difficulty of a full length by I started one and now I'm pretending that I was always intending to make a chapbook, because it's a little easier. And I got into poetry because I can't really sustain a thought for more than like a page and a half, and I like thin books because they're easier to carry. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm working on right now. But I'm also excited. I wasn't sure if you meant our work or other people's. A teacher of mine, Derek Austin, just had a book come out called This Elegance, which is incredible. with BOA. And another teacher of mine, Craig Morgan Teicher, has a book called September. Oh God, it starts with August. August, September, October, with also with BOA. It's really good. It's very sad. But if you like dad poems, he's the guy.
Okay, for myself, I just started pen as a beginner, and so I wanted to see what I could do as of like expand my artistic horizon. So I started painting classes, and also I'm excited for the project that came out early this year, January. It's an anthology of 40 Nigerian poets. It's titled Unbound. I would see if I can link the site where if you're interested, you can get it. So it's a collection, anthology of contemporary Nigerian poets across different topics, different um you get the feel. So it captures the whole Nigerian spirit of what it means to write as a Nigerian first and as an African towards a global audience. So I would link it here in the chat, so you guys should please check it out. It's a great body of work and you would like it.
Awesome. Thank you, Elias and Quinn and Tanya. There's one more question for Quinn that is in the chat. Oh, I think Quinn answered it also in the chat. But Quinn, if you also want to speak out loud a little more about it, you can. But the question was, how do you come up with the images for your poems? Do you draw from observation? Do they come intuitively, etc.? Quinn, if you want to expand on it, you're definitely free to.
I'll just say I'll add one more sentence because I can't type very fast. Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, it probably does start from observation, which then becomes memory, and then becomes something sort of stranger and mixed in with my emotion about what I observed, especially if it's something older. I definitely realized, honestly, reading out loud, I'm like, oh, I think a lot of my imagery comes from like using my fear as a compass a little bit. Like I was always really afraid of I was like afraid of like water and stuff under the water when I was a kid. And I like with sailing, I like grew up in Hawaii, so I was like in the water all the time. But like stuff like looming in the water is very scary to me. So I write about like shipwrecks a lot for some reason. And then like for whatever reason, like the body horror of becoming a parent has been very evocative for better or for worse, Babies are really weird, bodies are crazy, and I think my feeling of alienation from some of it want helps me want to like hold it closer. Um, yeah, if that helps. Makes sense.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that answer, Quinn. And thank you to Quinn and Tanya and Elias for answering all of these questions and for your really amazing readings. Tanya was having some technical issues and their entire computer got frozen. So unfortunately, they can't be here for this ending. But they also really, really loved and enjoyed your poetry. And I know that everyone else in the audience did too. And it was really such a pleasure to have you all here. Elias, thank you so much for coming back a second time to bless us with your poetry once more. And thank you, Quinn and Tanya, for being our featured readings here today. For